Hello students, welcome to today's session, Lesson 9, Shannon and Weaver's Model of Communication. Objectives: define the Shannon and Weaver's model and its components, understanding its historical context. Analyze sender and encoder roles, exploring the transformation of thoughts into encoded messages. Explore communication channels, recognizing the influence on message transmission. Evaluate decoder and receiver functions, understanding the decoding process and message interpretation. Analyze feedback's role, emphasizing its importance for effective communication and adjustments. Apply the model to various communication scenarios, including digital era application, identifying benefits, challenges and contextual influences. Introduction: Shannon and Warren Weaver developed a mathematical model of communication known as Shannon and Weaver's model of communication in 1949. This model is also commonly referred as mathematical or engineering model of communication. The model consists of several key components, each representing a stage or element in the communication process. Here are the main points covered under the Shannon and Weaver model. Sender, information source. The process begins with a sender or the information source who has a message to convey. This could be a person, a group of people or a machine. Encoder or transmitter. The message from the sender is encoded into a signal that can be transmitted. This process involves converting the information into a form of suitable transmission, such as through language or symbols. Message. The message is the actual information that the sender wants to communicate. Channel. The channel is the medium through which the encoded message is transmitted from the sender to the receiver. It can be a physical channel like airwaves for radio communication or conceptual channel like language for human communication. Decoder. The decoder receives the transmitted signal and decodes it back into a form understandable by the receiver. This involves interpreting the message and extracting the meaning. Receiver. The receiver is the intended destination of the message. The receiver is responsible for understanding the message sent by the sender. Noise. Noise refers to any interface or distortion that may affect the transmission or reception of message. Noise can be external, example physical interference, or internal, that is psychological distractions. Feedback. Feedback is the response or reaction from the receiver back to the sender. It allows the sender to know if the message was received and understood correctly. Feedback is crucial for effective communication as it enables adjustments and improves the subsequent communication. Context. The context refers to the broader environment or situation in which the communication takes place. It includes the cultural, social and historical factors that may influence the interpretation of message. Examples for Shannon and Weaver's model of communication. Example 1. Scenario: radio broadcast. Sender or the information source. Imagine a radio station as the sender. The station has a program manager who decides on the content to be broadcasted. Encoder or transmitter. The program manager or the RJ encodes the content, that is music, news, talk show, into electrical signals suitable for transmission through radio waves. Message. The message is the content being broadcasted, such as a song, news report or interview. Channel. The channel is the radio frequency through which the encoded message is transmitted. The station broadcasts the signals through airwaves. Decoder. People with radios within the broadcast range act as decoders. They tune their radios to the specific frequency of the radio station. Receiver. The radio listeners are the receivers who pick up the transmitted signal and convert it back into the original content like music, news or talk show. Noise. External noise could be interference like static which might distort the signal. Internal noise could be the listener's thinking process. If listener is not attentive, he may consume the message wrongly. Feedback. In traditional radio broadcasting, direct feedback from listener is limited. However, feedback can still occur indirectly through audience ratings, surveys or listener interaction via call-ins. Context. The context includes factors like the time of day, the cultural background of audience and the nature of content being broadcasted. For example, a morning show may have a different context than an evening music program. In this example, the Shannon and Weaver model is applied to the communication process of a radio broadcast. The radio station serves as the sender, transmitting a message through a channel which is radio waves to receivers who are listeners. Noise can affect the quality of signal and feedback come in form of audience metrics or indirect interaction. The context includes various elements that shape the reception and interpretation of broadcast. Example 2. Sender, who is the information source. The sender in this scenario is an advertising agency or company that wants to promote a product or service. Encoder, that is the transmitter, is the advertising agency creates an advertisement encoding the promotional message into various forms such as visuals, audio and text. This could include designing a print ad, creating a television commercial or developing an online banner. Message. The message is the content of the advertisement, including the information about the product or service, its features and benefits it offers. Channel. The channel is the medium through which the advertisement is delivered. This could be a television network, a magazine, a website or social media platforms. Decoder. Consumers who see or hear the advertisement act as decoders. They interpret the visual and auditory elements of the ad and extract meaning from the message. Receiver. The consumers are the receivers of the advertisement message. They are the target audience for the product or service being promoted. Noise. External noise could include distractions such as other advertisements, competing visual stimuli or background noise. Internal noise might involve personal bias or preconceived notion about product or brand. Feedback. Feedback in advertising can come in various forms. It includes consumer responses such as purchases, inquiries, social media engagement or market research data. Feedback helps the advertiser gauge the effectiveness of campaign and make adjustments if needed. Context. The context of advertising message includes the cultural, social and economic factors that influence consumer behavior. It also involves the timing of the advertisement, the chosen media channels and overall marketing strategy. For instance, imagine a cosmetic company coming up with a television commercial to promote new launch of products. The commercial, which is the message, is designed to convey the features, benefits and affordability. It is broadcasted on television and social media platforms and watched by potential buyers who are the receivers. The noise could be competing brand commercials during the same time slot. The feedback may come in form of increased sales or online inquiries. The context includes the current trends and preferences of target audience. Application of Shannon and Weaver model in daily life. The Shannon and Weaver model, while initially developed in the context of information theory, has applications that can be observed in various aspects of daily life. Text messaging. When you send a text message, you become the sender. encode your thoughts into written words which are transmitted through the cellular network, that is the channel, to the recipient's phone, that is the receiver. The recipient decodes the message and provides feedback through a reply. Email communication. In email communication, the sender encodes a message into an email format, which is then transmitted through the internet to the recipient. The recipient decodes the email and responds, providing feedback. Radio broadcasting. When you listen to a radio station, the broadcasting station, who is the sender, encodes the content, that is the message, into radio waves transmitted through the air, that is the channel. Your radio station decodes the signal and you might provide feedback through ratings or tuning in regularly. Television broadcasting. Television programs also follow this model. The television station, who is the sender, encodes content, that is the message, into electromagnetic signals broadcast through the air, that is the channel. Your TV receiver decodes the signal and you might provide feedback through watching, changing channels or commenting on social media. Online video streaming. Platforms like YouTube or Netflix involve encoding videos that are transmitted over the internet to your device. You decode the video and might provide feedback through likes, comments or subscription. Video conferencing. During a video call, the sender encodes audio and video signals transmitted through the internet to the receiver. The receiver decodes the signals and participants provide feedback through reactions, comments and continued conversation. Public speaking. A speaker encodes a message through verbal or non-verbal cues during a speech transmitted through the air to the audience. The audience decodes the message and provides feedback through applause, questions or engagement. Social media communication. When you post on social media, you encode a message in form of text, images, videos that is transmitted through the platform to your followers, who are the receivers. They decode the message and provide feedback through likes, comments or shares. Traditional mail. Sending a letter involves encoding a written message, which is then physically transmitted to the recipient's mailbox. The recipient decodes the message and might provide feedback through a response letter. Classroom lecture. In a classroom setting, the teacher, who is the sender, encodes information into spoken words transmitted through air, that is the channel, to students, who are the receivers. Students decode the information and may provide feedback through questions or participation. Application of Shannon and Weaver's model in digital era. In the digital era, the Shannon and Weaver model continues to be relevant and finds application in various aspects of communication, particularly in the realm of digital and online communication. Digital marketing. In digital marketing, companies encode messages through various online channels such as social media, email and websites. The transmission occurs over digital platforms and feedback is received through analytics, user engagement metrics and customer interactions. Email communication. The sender encodes a message in an email which is transmitted through the internet to the recipient. The recipient decodes the message and the feedback can be in the form of a reply, forward or other responses. Social media communication. Social media platforms serve as channels for transmitting messages encoded through posts, tweets or multimedia content. Feedback is obtained through likes, comments, shares and other engagement metrics. Online advertising. Advertisers encode messages in digital ads which are then transmitted through online platforms. Feedback is received through click-through rates, conversion rates and other analytics, allowing advertisers to assess the effectiveness of their campaign. Video conferencing. In virtual meetings and video conferencing, the sender encodes messages through video and audio signals. The channel is the internet and feedback can be real-time responses, questions or visual cues. Website communication. Websites serve as channels for transmitting information encoded in text, images and multimedia content. Users decode this information and feedback is obtained through website analytics, user behavior analysis and consumer inquiries. Digital broadcasting, podcasts, webinars, streaming, etc. The transmission of content through digital channels such as podcasts, webinars and streaming services aligns with Shannon and Weaver model. Listeners or viewers act as decoders and feedback can be obtained through ratings, reviews and audience interaction. Online education. In online education, instructor encode educational content which is transmitted through digital platforms to students who decode the information. Feedback may be in the form of assessment, quizzes, discussions and student questions. Instant messaging and chat applications. Messaging apps serve as channels for transmitting encoded message between users. Feedback is received through responses, read recipients and ongoing conversations. Cyber security. The principles of Shannon and Weaver's model are applied in the field of cyber security. While secure encoding, transmission and decoding of information are crucial, the model helps in understanding and addressing potential vulnerabilities and mitigating risks in digital communication. While the Shannon and Weaver model provides a foundational understanding of communication, it is essential to recognize the communication in the digital era often involves more complex interaction and feedback driven process. Models like the transactional model offer more nuanced perspectives on dynamics of digital communication. Benefits of Shannon and Weaver's model of communication. The Shannon and Weaver's model of communication, while primarily developed for engineering and information theory, offers several benefits in understanding and analyzing communication process. Clarity and simplicity. The model provides a clear and simplified representation of the basic elements and stages of the communication process. The simplicity makes it easy to understand and apply in various contexts. Identifies key components. It identifies key components in communication process such as the sender, encoder, message, channel, decoder and receiver. This breakdown helps in analyzing and troubleshooting communication breakdowns. Applicability to various communication forms. The model can be applied to a wide range of communication forms including human communication, machine communication and more. It is versatile in application. Foundation for further models. The Shannon and Weaver model laid the foundation for the development of more complex and interactive communication models such as transactional model. It provided a starting point for researchers and theorists to explore communication dynamics more comprehensively. Quantification of information. The model introduced the concept of entropy, allowing the quantification of information. This mathematical aspect is valuable in fields such as information theory and telecommunication. Useful in technological settings. The model is particularly useful in technological and engineering settings, where the emphasis is on the efficient transmission of information. It has practical applications in fields like telecommunication and data transmission. Emphasis on feedback. The model highlights the importance of feedback in the communication process. Feedback helps in assessing the effectiveness of communication and making necessary adjustments. Highlighting the role of noise. By including noise as a factor, the model acknowledges that communication is not always perfect and can be affected by various interferences. This is essential in understanding real-world communication challenges. Teaching tool. The simplicity of the Shannon and Weaver model makes it useful teaching tool for introducing students to fundamental concepts of communication. It provides a structured framework for discussions on communication process, While the Shannon and Weaver model offers valuable insights, it's important to note that it has limitations such as its linear and one-way nature. Subsequent models like the transactional model have developed to address these limitations and provide more dynamic understanding of communication. Challenges in Shannon and Weaver's model of communication. While the Shannon and Weaver's model is a valuable framework for understanding communication, it has some limitations and faces challenges in capturing the complexity of real-world communication dynamics. Linearity. One of the primary criticisms of the model is its linearity. Communication in real life is often more complex and interactive, involving feedback loops and simultaneously encoding and decoding processes. The linear nature of the model oversimplifies the intricacies of human communication. Omission of context. The model tends to overlook the role of context in communication. Communication is heavily influenced by context in which it occurs, including cultural, social, and historical factors. The model does not adequately address the contextual nuances that impact the interpretation of messages. Limited feedback. While the model includes feedback as a component, it may not fully capture the richness of feedback in real communication situation. Feedback is often ongoing and dynamic, involving continuous adjustments and interactions between sender and receiver. Noise oversimplification. The concept of noise in this model is a simplification of the various factors that can disrupt communication. It does not account for the complexity of psychological, semantic, or cultural noise that can affect the interpretation of messages. Human element neglect. The model was initially developed for engineering and information theory, and it tends to neglect the psychological and emotional aspects of human communication. It does not account for the role of emotions, intentions, or social relationships in the communication process. Assumptions of shared code. The model assumes that both the sender and receiver share a common code for encoding and decoding messages. In reality, individuals may have different interpretation of symbols, words, and gestures based on their unique backgrounds and experiences. Inadequate representation of nonverbal communication. The model primarily focuses on verbal communication and does not explicitly address nonverbal cues such as body language, facial expressions, and tone of voice. Nonverbal elements play a crucial role in conveying meaning and can significantly impact the communication process. Dynamic nature of communication. Communication is dynamic and evolving process, and the model does not capture the fluidity and complexity of interactions over time. It provides a snapshot of a single instance of communication and may not account for changes in context or relationships. Cultural bias. The model may exhibit a cultural bias as it was developed within a specific cultural and technological context. It may not fully capture the diversity of communication patterns and practices across different cultures and societies. Absence of intentionality. The model does not explicitly account for intentionality aspect of communication. People often communicate with specific goals, intentions, and purposes, and these elements are not explicitly addressed in this model. Summary. We had a clear understanding on basic flow of communication in the Shannon and Weaver model. The sender generates a message. The message is encoded by transmitted. The encoded message is transmitted through a channel. The receiver decodes the message. The receiver provides the feedback to the sender. It is important to note that Shannon and Weaver model is linear and one way, emphasizing the transmission of information from sender to receiver. Though it remains fundamental concept that laid foundation for further developments of communication theory, The model is applicable to various forms of communication, from traditional media to digital platforms, providing a structural framework to understand the basic elements of communication process. While it has been influential in understanding communication process, subsequent models have been developed to address the limitations of linearity and to better capture the complexities of interactive and dynamic communication. Thank you.